Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Of course, all of us are here on at the same time. We're not waiting on anybody this time. Almost had to wait on me having computer issues. But guys, yes, I'm Mike Spider Slayer from the YouTube channel Comic Book Corner 2.0. And next we have Kat Comic Uno.
Hey guys, what is up?
And then we have Brant from Only Good Comics and Last Ember Press.
What's up, everybody?
So, yes, we'll have a great show for you today. We're going to dive into the comics first, then we're going to talk about the news, and we'll take your guys' comments and questions like usual. So, hopefully, you'll be in for the ride. And, so let's start off with the comics this week. We'll jump right into it. Welcome again, everybody. First book we're going to talk about is Lazarus Planet Alpha. This is issue 1. So
the big event of the year.
Okay, so Kat told us that she didn't like this book right from the get-go when we were talking about books last week.
Yeah.
And we're like, Brett and I are like, oh, really? Okay, well, we'll see what happens. So I, for one, did not mind this book. I thought it was actually okay. I thought the artwork was good. I would say like it was very dark and fantasy-like in many ways. I thought some of the characters' facial expressions were off, but in many ways, I thought it was pretty good artwork. And I thought the story was interesting too. My only problem with it, though, is I feel like it's too fast. It's like too soon. We have this big event that just ended with Dark Crisis, and then all of a sudden we go into this whole Lazarus volcano erupting, trying to save Batman from dying. And it was just like, balls to the wall. It's just like one thing to the other. And that's, I guess, what my issue was with it. And then the other thing why I can't sit there and get really excited for it is because Mark Waid is not the one that's continuing to write this thing. It's all going to take place through one-shots and anthology stories. Yeah. So everyone's going to have their own little spin on it. So I guess that's why I can't really get hyped about it.
And it feels so filler to me. And that's the thing that it just felt like any other event. There's just like, at least with Dark Crisis, and honestly, even Dark Crisis kind of feels like any other event, but there's some threads be like, okay, they're trying to set up that the Titans is going to be this kind of bigger role. Green Arrow's missing. Maybe Suicide Squad will show up. There's just nothing there. It's just like, all right, here's these characters teaming up. They are legacy characters for the most part. And here we are. It just feels so fillerish to get to point A to point B. They're like, oh, we got to buy some time because Dawn of DC is not here yet. Let's put out this Lazarus Planet. And I'm just so tired of these type of events. I also didn't love the art. I feel like it was too hyper realistic, and I was just kind of bored by it.
So, I agree with like a lot of what both of you said. And I didn't like love it. I didn't mind it. I'm more in Mike's camp with that, but I kind of agree that you're just kind of thrown into it. And even though Batman versus Robin was the lead in, that was also very action heavy and just thrown into it, and boom, 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 boom to get you to here. And there was none of that slow character building build up to get you to the point where you're excited about what's going on, the bigger picture and the events that they had to tackle in this issue. I didn't mind the art. I didn't love it or hate it. I thought it was fine, but I don't like the darkness of it. I get it because like all the green stuff is in the air, right? And it's given it that atmospheric kind of vibe, but at the same time, it was just like it felt a little muddy because of that, and it was hard to like visually get into it for that reason as well. So yeah, I'm not super excited about this, and like you said, Mike, with different writers taking it on and it being one shots and that kind of thing. It's like, well, am I going to get every single one shot that comes out? Probably not. So then, you don't get the full story. It's a weird way to do it, in my opinion. But.
Right.
They have another one shot coming out this week, I think.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah. I'm going to check it out just to see what the tone is. For something like this, I would have loved for it to be more like an event. Where it just takes place through a 1 through 5 or 1 through 4 or something like that, instead of doing these one shot type of deals. I don't know. Mr. Negative had an interesting comment here, like we showed earlier. It says, "I really like what they did with Damien and Monkey Prince in this book. I've liked Monkey Prince a lot more than most, though." I can actually say that scene was actually um, nice. I mean, like I know nothing about Monkey Prince,
Yeah,
but I thought his interaction with Black Alice was actually it felt genuine, and he was
yeah.
trying to help her.
That was one of the better moments in the book, I thought. But the backup story, I didn't care about at all.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't
So,
either.
yeah,
But that one moment in the book was good because
right.
what it did is it finally slowed down the book a little bit.
Yeah,
Where it was like right from the start, it was crazy, right? And then it leads just to one thing to another. And they even mentioned that in the comic how the Justice League has been disassembled, they're disbanding, they're dealing with their own situations and this event
hmm,
that's actually happening. And it's kind of weird how all the characters just happen to be there, what they could assemble at the time.
yeah,
And then you get the magic users that show up. So it was a like I said, it wasn't a horrible book.
right.
I was entertained by it, but it's just I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like we're not going to get that type of writing in
Yeah,
in the next book.
yeah.
KO acts as the first chapter of Lazarus Out Today. I honestly would consider this issue, the one we're talking about now, the
The
first
alpha.
chapter.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, so it was out last week, I would say.
right. Which
The first chapter comes out today. I think it's a Superman one or something like that.
But
it's
is that
yeah,
considered a chapter though, or
it's
Yeah.
Assault on Krypton is what it's called. Yeah,
Yeah. It's all tied to it.
I would consider that the second part of the arc, just because I'm guessing you would have to read this alpha to read the Superman. I am gonna read the Shazam one because it seems like maybe that'll connect to like other Shazam stories. I don't know.
just looking at the description for the one that's out today, it describes it as a collection of epic vignettes
Oh,
from
so it's an
around Lazarus
anthology.
Planet. Basically, yeah.
I think they're all anthologies, Kat. I think they're all that way.
But I mean, like the anthologies so
It,
all of them have like short stories in them,
it looks
or
like
is it all
like,
yeah.
Lisa?
No,
It-
I think it's all short stories on different heroes dealing
yeah,
with situations, and some of them are going to introduce like
That's something.
new characters. Because then we see, isn't there an article in here about the slowster instead of the
Yeah.
oh yeah,
speedster?
the Stillster, yeah.
Yeah, Stillster. Yeah,
Yeah, so this one has a Girl story, it has a Dreamer story, it has a Mercy Graves and a Jonathan Kent. So
a
yeah,
lot.
it's all over the place. Yeah.
But at least it is all Superman related.
Yes. Yes.
So you at least
So-
got that. Well, good luck for anyone's following it. Like I said, I'm gonna get the Shazam one, and I think that's it. So I mean, maybe if there's a Batman one.
That is the one positive to the way they're doing that. If they do keep it within the families, you can just buy the families or characters that you want to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's talk about this bad boy, Amazing Spider-Man issue
That's something.
17.
17.
We got
Wreck Rap.
Wreck Rap is in the end of this one. Also, like, man, I just don't like this event. This event has done nothing. There's nothing that happens in this event at all. And that this is proof of that. Cool, he's in limbo. Great. Like even the J. Jonah Jameson interaction was hollow. The cliffhanger was hollow. It's just the only thing I really like about this book is the art, and that's it.
It was a weird story in this issue. It's like they were cosplaying Peter Parker's life. So
in limbo.
In limbo. It was so weird.
And it's like if he doesn't do it right, he's like gonna punish him.
Yeah. And then like the Wreck Rap, Kat and I were talking about that beforehand. It's Parker backwards.
Yeah.
And it's that little dude that got
Yeah.
transformed that wanted to be a hero.
And he's a Spider-Man of limbo.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very odd story.
And then they created the version of Sinister Six.
Yeah, the Insidious Six.
Insidious Six. And there was one part, I mean, you wind up getting Spider-Man back in his threads. He creates his own costume again.
Mhm.
And then there is one part where Spider-Man, they're like, let's do battle. And Spider-Man's like, do we have to? Like, do we have to go through this? And I said this in my review with Spider-Man Weekly that I do. I'm saying, does Zeb Wells does he really want to do this event? It just seemed like he was poking fun at this book and going, can we just move on with it so we can get on to the real story that I want to tell? So it's like, I feel like, is this an editorial event where they're like, okay, you got to write an event before you get to the story that you want to tell, type of deal, you know? And I kind of felt like he was almost maybe poking fun at himself here.
Yeah, could be. It is very, it does try very hard to be comical.
Right. Yeah, it definitely
Yeah,
does.
exactly like that comment.
So I don't know. It just was just like, it's just one of those books, man, where I was like, wow, this is bad. And then we had, Black Cat and what's it called? Ms. Marvel, which we'll get to that.
Miss Marvel,
too.
yeah.
Oh God, Miss Marvel was bad.
I did not love Miss Marvel.
We'll talk.
Oh man, we'll talk about Miss Marvel.
I did. I really did.
I didn't like Miss Marvel.
I did. Yeah.
You know why not? We're on the topic. Let's just talk about Miss Marvel. We could get to it after, but like
that was. I will honestly. I'm going to tell you this right now. Mm-hmm. I will not be surprised. This is my worst book of the year.
Wow. I mean, I didn't dislike it that much. But...
I did. I did not like it at all. I did not like it at all. It's so stupid. It's dumb. You're going to transform a mosque that is trying to leave Jersey City because the people are bickering and they don't have clean toilets. Like, is that really needed and to be discussed in a comic book like that? Like, I don't think that's necessary. It's not, and they're supposed to be demons. Like, since when does a demon grow a conscience, right? Like, I don't know. That's just dumb. And with the people inside of it, that just, I don't know. I did not like that at all. Where does Miles come in play? Hey, Miss Marvel, I'm coming out of nowhere, and we're going to have a heart-to-heart with this demon-like creature. It's just, I don't know. And the inventors, I thought the artwork, though, was really good. I thought that was awesome. The characters.
See, I didn't even like the art for this issue.
I did.
Really? I really liked
I didn't like their facial expressions. I don't know. But Brent, you liked the issues. I want to
know why do you liked it?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't care about all that stuff. I always like seeing Miles and Kamala interact, and I thought their conversations, the banter, the dialogue was all very on brand for Miss Marvel. And it was more interesting Miss Marvel story than I read in a while. And maybe that's why I thought it was more in character for her and her supporting cast, that the ones that they actually showed in this, than we have been getting from anything Miss Marvel lately.
I just feel like what upsets me every single time I get a Miss Marvel story is that we don't have a Miss Marvel ongoing, because it just feels like I don't need this book. I don't need this story. They're like, why is she in Dark Web? Like, why is this connected at all? Right. First of all, this is a fault of the event, of course, as well, because I don't even know what the event's about at this point. But I just want a Miss Marvel ongoing. I hate that we keep telling these stories where she can't progress as a character, and it's just like, cool. I keep seeing all these like one and done adventures with her, and they're just not as fun to me. Because we have had too many of them. I just want to see a story.
I agree.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike. No, go ahead.
For me, there was no reason whatsoever for her to have her own little book here. She was in maybe 2 panels of the Spider-Man story so far, and she gets 2 issues. Now, you notice how it's done already. 2 issues, and it's like, oh, it's over. And even in the beginning, the cliffhanger of the first issue was she got shoved into limbo. And then right away, she's like, oh, I'm going to grow big. You better send me back. There's no fucking Wi-Fi here. And they're like, send her back, send her back. Like, I hated everything about this issue. I really did. I was really disappointed with this. Yeah, definitely. What happened to the boyfriend? Or not the guy that she met in the first issue? Like, he wasn't even in the second issue at all.
I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly, because that tells you how memorable.
I didn't like the first issue at all, but this one, I like I said, it was just because it felt more like Miss Marvel to me.
Gotcha.
That's really all it was. I like the characterization. I like the writing. I don't like the event. I hate everything about the event. But that part I really like. So
you like the character in the book.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. Just not needed. I don't know. This event is not needed. That's for sure. All right. Well, then before we get to number 5, let's just move on and talk about Mary Jane and Black Cat issue 2.
We also had Black Cloak to talk about too, but let's do Mary Jane.
Yeah,
we can
we'll
also
talk.
do Black
Yeah,
Cloak
while we're
with
talking
after
about
issue 5.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, let's talk about Mary Jane.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like you didn't like Mary Jane, or did you like it?
No, I did like.
Okay,
Mary
good.
Jane.
Okay, because
Yeah,
you grouped it with Miss Marvel. Wait, I'm like,
no,
I
I just wanted to talk with since we were talking all about Spider-Man.
No, I thought this was great. It's not as strong as the first issue, just because the first issue had the reveals. But this is the Spider-Man book I want. Like this is it's well written, and also it's a good way to do dark web. It does feel like, okay, maybe does this adventure matter? Maybe not in the grand scheme, but the way it's written, there's so many good character beats that it does matter.
Yes.
You have the conflict of Black Cat saying, should I say that, I'm with Peter, and then Mary Jane with her own power situation there, and just their chemistry together is so good. I think the build up to the villain was good in this one. Like, this is how you write a tie-in, but then also, like, it's just the best story from Dark Web. And I know you've been enjoying Gold Goblin. I have been too, but if I had to pick between the two, I feel like this actually has even more to say. There's more progression in this one.
Go ahead.
You liked it, Brant? You like this one? I liked the first issue better too.
Yeah.
I liked how we got to learn more about her powers in this one. And yes, it's definitely a bracelet that's it's causing her to have these powers. But I like how she explained to us, like, how it's just random. And if she gets 1 skull, the power set is not as good. 2 skulls, it's even worse. We don't even know what happens with 3 if that was to happen. Which is interesting. And it makes you believe that she got this bracelet during those 6 months. So it touches on that a little bit. And Jed McKay is a great writer. And like Kat said, you can tell by adding those character beats in this book and thinking about the overall story with Peter and Mary Jane and Black Cat as a whole. And I think that's awesome. And this book actually has a purpose. It's like a side quest that's going on in limbo. And that has a real reason to read this book, like why you want to read this book. Where Ms. Marvel had no purpose whatsoever, this does. And that's what I like about this. And again, you talk about artwork. The artwork is really good in this one too.
Yeah, the art is fantastic in this book, and like you said, that's the side quest element of it. I think is really cool, and if you're dealing with limbo, and you have all these characters that you can bring into limbo, and it's like, okay, well, let's do something with that we wouldn't normally get to tell, and that's kind of what this book does. Right. But at the same time, like you said, Kat, you have all this other stuff between those two, and like Felicia loving Peter and all that stuff, and almost having to tell her, come out with it in this issue, and also some little teases to what actually happened with Mary Jane, because she pauses and is like, 6 months, which led me to believe like maybe a lot more time passed for Mary Jane. Whatever happened.
It's the most we've gotten about this Mary Jane story.
Exactly. Like you said, Kat, this is the Amazing Spider-Man story that I want to read. And I wish that was this book, but I just you put these two characters together, and especially with Jed McKay writing, and it's gold for me. I do agree that the first issue was better, but that doesn't mean this was a bad issue at all. This was a really good.
It just means the first issue was so good.
Exactly.
I love how Limbo actually has a purpose in this story, where Limbo is just Limbo in all the other ones. Right. It's like, you're sticking me in limbo, but why are you sticking me in limbo? And why is this such a punishment? Why can't I handle it? So you're going to make a mockery of everything that goes up above? Like, it's just dumb. It's stupid. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this book was really good. So I can't wait for the next issue for that one. All right. So let's talk. We'll talk about Black Cloak, and then we'll do number 5.
Yes.
This is a book.
How many times did you read it? I had to read this one twice.
Okay, so I couldn't even, honestly, Kat, I couldn't get through the book.
I didn't think it'd be your thing, Mike.
It's not my thing.
It was, I read it. I remember I read it the first time, and I was like, man, I don't know how to feel about this book. And then I read it the second time. I'm like, I get it now. It's tough to get through, though, which maybe, you don't want to read a comic that's tough to get through, because it compares itself to Saga, but Saga's a very easy read. It's actually usually a very quick read too. But this, I feel like it dumps a lot of information on you, but there's some information I was interested in, because I was like, oh, I like that this girl is in this royal connection, like she is with this guy, but then she kind of like, separated herself. I'm like, there's something there that I like. The art I'm not a big fan of, but I'm like, maybe I don't know if I would stick around with it though. That's my biggest problem. But I thought there was promise, but it was hard to get through.
I read this in 2 sittings, I think.
Yeah,
so
I feel
read
like you
half
have
and
to.
half. Yeah, it was a long book, but I think if the art was different, it would be more interesting to me. But I did enjoy it.
So we got a comment from KO.
Okay.
He said, I wish I could show the cover. So here's the cover of Black Cloak. And this artwork is gorgeous. If the artwork was even close to what it was on the inside, I would have been more intrigued by this.
It's definitely a more like cartoony, more slice of life kind of art style, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a little different for the story that they're telling, because it's a fantasy murder mystery with mermaids and royal families and all that stuff. Like, but I did think the story was interesting. Whether it's a story that could hold my interest long term with everything else that I read, that's the challenge, especially if every issue is this long. That would be a challenge. Yeah, me too. But
although it's only $4.99 for how much story you get, that's not too
exactly.
bad. I did see this comment by KO. I think Saga took too long a break and won't get its audience back. I don't think Saga has to worry about, because the thing is with Saga and what's the success of Saga compared to other comics is that they have audience members that don't read comics. Like a lot of comics, it's just the comic readers reading it. Like Black Cloak, probably just comic readers are reading. Saga, people are going to the comic book store that normally wouldn't go to the comic book store, even if it's taken a tremendous long break. So I don't think Saga has anything to worry about.
Speaking of which, it comes out soon.
It comes
next week.
Black Cloak seems like something that would be popular on like Webtoon.
And I'm surprised it's not on Webtoon, because I agree. And I think if it was smaller bites, but then also there's just so much mythology, it's hard to make it a smaller bite. I just kind of wish that information was pushed a little early on in the issue. Like I feel like it took too long, and then I don't know. It just, I like Kelly Thompson's writing a lot, and that's why I'm like, oh, maybe I want to read issue 2, because I know there's a reason for the seeds that she plants, but I'm like, I don't know if issue 1 was enough for me.
Yeah, see, I'm a sucker for fantasy-based stories, and I'm a sucker for murder mysteries, and this has both. But because of those things you said, Kat, it takes a while to get that information that actually gets you into the story, which is her connection to the royal family and the what her connection is to the person that's murdered and all that stuff. That's like, oh, if I'd known that earlier, I would have been hooked more. But it took me a while to get there, so that does concern me for the story going forward. Yeah.
And then Steve asks, on the topic of Spidey, has Scotty Young ever written Spider-Man? I feel like that'd be a solid match. I don't think he's ever written like a mini series. I'm sure he's written the character, but I don't know if he's ever written like a series.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's done those little short things. But I don't know if he's done an actual like he does for other books. Yeah.
When it came to Black Cloak, I got 8 pages in, and I couldn't get into it. I didn't.
No, it's understandable.
Number one, it was the artwork. Artwork has a big part in comics. Someone actually, mentioned this to me, and they said, "You didn't read the book because it's got bad artwork." And I'm like, "Why is one of the reasons why you read comic books is because the art has a very integral part of telling the story with the words, and for me, I just couldn't get into this story. Like, I didn't care about the history of these royal people and the person that got murdered and all these new characters in this world. And I felt like it was just dumping way too much information on me for such a new comic book. I just could not get into that, So I was just like, no, it's not my thing. I'm done with it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's totally understandable.
Yeah, I get it. It doesn't seem like your type of book, but I agree. And I don't think the art was bad. I just think it was not the best fit for this story for me.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't fit the book. I would have loved to seen it be a little bit more, I don't know, more of a serious toned artwork. You got a murder mystery going on, and then yet you got like characters that look like cartoons, So I don't know. All right. So that's that. Let's talk about our number 5 book then. Brant, what was your number 5?
Mine was actually Miles Morales. I enjoyed this issue. I thought it was so much better than the first issue. You see him going on an adventure with Misty Knight and kind of doing a team up there, but at the same time, he's still dealing with like he can't keep his personal life things straight. He's got Tiana, is that her name? Mad at him, and he's got Gonke mad at him, and he's trying to navigate all this stuff and trying to, cope with all that. But at the same time, he gets pulled into the side adventure with Misty. And I thought it was really good. I love their banter between each other because it's like this seasoned superhero that's dealt with spider people for her entire career, and then he's new on the scene and learning the ropes. And I thought it was a really solid issue.
Yeah, I agree. I like the villain, the new villain at the end. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. And I love the artwork in this book. And this first issue was, I mean, this issue was better than the first issue, like you said. I agree with you there. It makes me want to read more. I mean, I had a lot of great comics that I enjoyed this week. And this didn't make my top 5, but it was kind of just like outside of there. Yeah. But I am pleasantly surprised by this book,
I think I'm done with it.
You didn't like it better than the first issue?
No, because it feels like the same thing from the last arc.
It's not different to me.
It felt different to me too.
I'm not feeling the emotional weight of Miles. I think they try a lot. Like they're, they have the friends. They're trying to introduce this new villain. They have a character like Misty. But I feel like a lot of these Marvel books, they have like there's a track of what an issue 1 or issue 2
like a formula.
Like. Yeah, a formula. It's just like, all right, you got to have that Marvel hero that's usually not in this book, but they're going to team up. You get this new villain, and then like you kind of introduce the supporting cast members, but you don't really do much with them. And I feel like this feels like more of a formula of Marvel than trying to do something different with Miles. And it just doesn't have personality to me. It just kind of just feels there.
I get that. All 3 of us have struggled with Miles since he's been in the 616, and I completely understand that, and no fault at all. But for me, I felt like this gave me hope that this run could actually be different. So hopefully it will be. Yeah.
The art is good, though. I agree with that.
I can say that from what I read based off of these first 2 issues, I like this better already than Solomon Ahmed's run. Just because I think he's writing Miles better. There is a similar tone, but I feel like he's writing the character better. I think Misty Knight's going to be more in this book than we think she is. Nice. And I do like how they try to throw in a little familiar feel by putting the Scorpion in there as well. And then they'll try to go somewhere a little bit different with this new villain that's being introduced. And then right away, his female friend is obviously getting attacked by someone we don't know. So where that goes from here, I don't know. But I don't think we'll ever reach that Brian Michael Bendis, bar. And I think sometimes we have that expectation. And should it be met one day? Probably. I don't know who's ever going to
even if it's a different though, because like look at trying to think of a character that's had a good run after their big one. But I'm trying to think of like Immortal Hulk. Like, did they have? All right, you had a greatness of Planet Hulk, but then you had something like Immortal Hulk. Like they're both good, but they're both different. And I'm just looking for something different for Miles. I don't know if I'm looking for the flavor of Bendis, but I'm just looking for a voice for Miles, and I just still don't think this is it. It just feels kind of vanilla to me.
Some people have been telling me they should make Miles a completely different character. Like, don't even make him Spider-Man anymore. Change it.
I think that takes away a lot because it's just like, I think for a lot of people, it's so cool to have a black Spider-Man. Like, that's such good representation. If you take that away from him, I feel like that does more harm than good.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
You're probably right. I mean, that's kind of like why he was created, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, We had
And
this
why
one.
he's so loved too and Into the Spider-Verse. I think for a lot of people, it's like I finally saw myself on screen.
Yeah.
But I
sure.
think that that's his struggle though at the same time as a character, because he's very similar to Spider-Man, and it's just like they call him Spider-Man, then there's the other Spider-Man, and it's just like, well, which
And they don't even know what to
really
do with
is
Amazing
different.
Spider-Man. So.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to the conversation before, I'm kind of opposite to me. The story comes first and then the artwork is secondary. If the artwork is okay or pretty decent, I could put up with it as long as that is a great story. Listen, I can too, but for me, the artwork did not work at all for me in that story. And that's why I couldn't read it anymore. I deal with a lot of subpar artwork, in my opinion, when it comes to stories, but the story is brilliantly written. I couldn't get into the story, and I thought the artwork was not that great. So it's just a double whammy for me, and that's why I put it down. Okay, so that was Brant. So what was yours, Kat? Your number 5.
Mine was Crashing. This is the end of this book. It was pretty solid how they ended it, and just kind of her journey with her addiction. And I think it's always hard when you have a good first issue and even a solid middle to have a good conclusion. But I think this book stuck the landing.
Gotcha. All right. And sometimes the slang they use with him is cringy, and I'm a Puerto Rican from New York, LOL. So I did realize that in this issue, he has more of like the New York slang going on, where in the last volume, he would always speak Puerto Rican or wherever he is from, or his family is from. And so I don't know. So like, what is he like? Right? Like, what side are we gearing him towards? Right?
I never it's so hard to write slang, I guess, in comics, because sometimes it's like, oh, will it be outdated? Will it not be? And I think at least with the Puerto Rican side, which was the previous one, it's like that's not going to be out of date. That's just like, that's part of culture. So when you do like New York slang changes. It's not always going to be the same slang. So it's just like I think it's always hard to write it because, again, sometimes it just gets outdated very quickly.
Yeah.
All right. My number 5 was Something is Killing the Children, issue 28. Another solid read here. We got Erica Slaughter being, I guess, hunted by the House of Cutter, which is a female who is, I guess, that takes out members of a house that is no longer worthy. So she's kind of like a bounty hunter. And so in this issue, there was a lot of suspense. There was a lot of buildup. There was the local sheriff that captured Erica Slaughter because she's being framed for murder. And this Cutter person is approaching the police station. And at the end of the issue, you wind up seeing her come face to face with Erica Slaughter in this. And just that tension, that buildup, and what Cutter does is so awesome, dude. And she plays a game with Erica at the end of this. And I cannot wait for the next issue, man. It is so, so good. I can't wait to get caught up with this, Brand.
Yeah.
Where are you at on it?
I've still only read volume 1. I gotta get my hands on volume 2 and go from there. I started collecting the single issues at 25, but yeah.
Gotcha.
That's good, at least.
Really good. It's so good stuff. So love that book. All right. So we talked about Mary Jane and Black Cat. Let me get some water. I'm going to pass it on you guys. We're going to talk about The Flash, issue 790. What happens in that book? What can we expect out of this event?
Yeah.
Well, Brent, you've been reading Flash, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For the past several issues. Yeah.
Compared, like, what did you think of like this event compared to what you were reading with Flash?
I mean, it was definitely more interesting. I think it kind of took a slow beat for the past few issues because I dropped off of it for a while because I just wasn't into the story. And when I started reading it again, it was more about kind of the family stuff. And it was just kind of building up to this point. So it was that slow kind of build before you get to that big event thing that happens. So it was a really good build up, I think, to get to this point. because you were getting more familiarized with the characters and kind of, taking that slower route there. But and then this one, it's like that I like this issue. The only drawback on this issue was the cuts in between the characters was a little abrupt, and I get what they were going for. I don't think it quite delivered on that punch, but I did like the way that all the different speedsters were showcased and how this freezing time kind of affected each one of them in succession. So I really like that. So yeah.
I feel like this is how you do an event,
Yeah.
That's what I really liked about this is like you have, like you said, you kind of have the different moments of you see what this Flash is doing, that Flash is doing, you build that up. And then you have the shocking moment in the end, and there's some good action in between. Like, I think Dark Web has so much to learn from this event. I just really like the pacing of it. It got me excited. As someone who has not been reading Flash for a very long time, it was very easy to jump into. It's an interesting concept. Not that we haven't seen the concept before. Superman has done it in the past, but I like the way they did it. I thought it was really, really solid start. And it obviously gave me enough to read issue 2.
Yeah.
This was great. I haven't read a Flash book and I couldn't tell you how long. Like, well before, like, I think it was like when Godspeed entered the thing. Like, it's the last time, like, and so
very long time.
Yeah, I love the artwork in the book. Absolutely gorgeous. And I was hooked right from page 1 because it's something that you see the opening scene out of a movie, right? It's just like this huge thing. It's just like maybe from like I don't know what kind of movie am I looking for here? Independence Day. When you get the freaking big ass UFOs that come racing towards Earth, and then all of a sudden everything is blowing up around you. And it's just like, there's your hook right there, and just seeing all the major players that are going to be in this book right from the start was just like, oh, cool. Like, I don't even know what the hell is going on in Flash, but I was like, oh, I know that this person is speedster and that person is speedster.
Yeah.
This person is speedster. I know Wally. I know Barry. I do know that what's her face is pregnant, so she was pregnant, and then at the end of the issue, I was just like, no, they couldn't just done that, right? I mean, is that really what's going to happen? I mean, but they're speedsters; they can always go back in time and reverse whatever happened.
Yeah,
and what has been happening with Iris? Are they married? Are they not married? Because it looked like she kind of had a box there. Was she going to propose at that point?
She was about to propose.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not married. They've just been dating and stuff. You mentioned Independence Day, and I think that kind of illustrates what I was trying to say, not so eloquently before, which was the previous few issues. Like, you had that one issue where it was like Linda's writing that book and Wally gets into it and different stuff like that. It was like these little character beats. If you compare it to like Independence Day, it's that scene at the house with Will and his family and all that stuff right before the shoe drops and the alien ship shows up. Yeah, so that's kind of what the lead up was to this, and then this was that big ship, like you said. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a great thing. What do you think about the death at the end, though? What do you think? Do you think she's actually dead? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, the buildup was great for it, though. Spoiler alert.
Before we talk about it,
the buildup was great for it because, again, we were talking about like, oh, she's ready to propose. She's trying to talk about like what's her next steps here, and obviously I like that Iris was one to do it, not Barry.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like the only other option is like, oh, give her powers or something, and we've seen that before with her.
Yeah, we have seen that before, and like right now, Linda has powers, so I don't think they would do that with Iris.
Linda has powers now. I did not know that.
Yeah,
what's
their
her
whole
power?
family, speed. Their whole family is speedsters. It's a whole thing, but she thinks it's from the baby. She thinks the baby's what gave her powers.
And we don't know who this baby is, right? Because this is not like in the Flash mythos of them having another child.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was just the two that they already had. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know about this death because I mean, obviously, we're talking about if you haven't read it, we're spoiling it. But Iris at the end, and I don't know. It's hard because like the speedsters are time travelers, right? And this whole war takes place within 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something. I don't think that's going to stick. There's no way. I think it's just the hook to get people to read this event.
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird because these people came down, right?
Yeah.
And they completely stopped time. But the only people that doesn't affect is the speedsters, which is quite interesting. Like, what is it that these people like? What do they do? Like,
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of these villains before or no?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So they seem to be new.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the whole premise of this. Like, what better characters can you do a war that takes place in a minute than speedsters? Where time
it's better than Superman, I feel.
Yeah, it's so clever. It's so original. I love this idea, and just to see what they're going to be able to do with that, with everybody else frozen, and it's just going to be this battle in the Speed Force that's going to take place over how many ever issues it is. So
and everyone's going to be frozen and they run around it and everything. Right. It's just insane.
Yeah,
but like Kat said, this is the way you kick off an event, and a lot of other people should take notes here because there's got to be a purpose to your event, and right away, there's a purpose there. You know. Not only is Earth getting invaded, but there's also a major person that has affected someone's life already, and it looks like it's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm totally excited about it.
That's another question too. Like, if Iris doesn't have powers, she's frozen at this moment? Then, so how do we know if she's dead or alive?
Yeah. I guess her heart can't be beaten, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, everything's frozen. So that's crazy. We did get a super sticker from Comic Toby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's if you see it on my phone, it doesn't show up here, but it's like a little
little animated kind of thing. Yeah, that's cool.
So that's what the super stickers look like on the
nice
on the thing. So thank you. That's so funny. But yeah, I'm on board, man. And just me having read this, I don't know. I guess like you guys said last week, this is a perfect jumping on point. Yeah. And I'll probably be reading Flash now going forward. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And like you said, you didn't really need to know anything about the Flash characters to read this. Yeah.
Nope. Exactly.
I mean, I would say maybe you need to know about like the basis of the Flash, because then you'd be like, why are there so many Flashes? Who's that? So I would say you don't need to know this run, but maybe you need like a somewhat basis of who the Flash is.
Some cursory knowledge of who the Flash is. And
there's like I know the Flash, and I know, like I said, Barry and Alan, and I know like there's Linda, and then there's
Jay Garrick. Like you need to know that stuff.
Yeah,
like, if you watch the TV show, you'll probably find.
There's like Kid Flash, and then there's there's Flash. There's I don't know a lot about them, but I'll know enough to get through this event, so, and then I'll learn as I go.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's that. There's our little Flash talk, something a little different this week. All right. So here we go. We will move on to number 4. Kat, what's your number 4 comic?
Mine is Mary Jane and Black Cat. We already talked about it.
That's actually mine too. So there we go.
Oh, nice.
Super cool. Mine is Dark Ride issue 4.
Good issue. I know it's not Brand's thing, but
I know. But my gosh, what a crazy issue. You got the YouTuber that finds out what's going on. You get the reveal of the kid that went missing from the very first issue on what happened with him. It's very, very creepy. All the prayers have been answered for the family. The park is packed again with all kinds of visitors. And then you find out which way one of the kids is going to. Some were like debating, should they go with the father or should they go their own way? Well, the Halloween character, the female, the sister, she's the one that decides to kind of follow in her dad's footsteps. And it was a really good book. And what happens to the YouTuber is he becomes one of those mascot characters. And those mascot characters are like creatures, and it's pretty disgusting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like the pacing of those books so much because I feel like in another story this would have taken 20 issues. But
This
we're
was
on
the end
issue
of the first
4.
arc.
Oh wow!
Oh, was
There you
it?
go.
Yeah.
It progresses so well too because again we find out what happens to the brother. You get a little bit more interaction between the sister and I guess the main character you call the brother, and like you said, also the sister. You kind of find out what her role is, and yeah, it just progresses everything so nicely. I think it's just such a solid book, and so different. I can't compare this to another book.
I agree. Yeah, it's really good. I know Brandon doesn't read it, not his thing. Totally get it, but man, I love that ending. I I
I
love
read
that
the first
ending.
3 issues, but yeah.
It's like
You
so
gave it a
Brant,
shot.
so you know how the mascots you think like yeah, they're monsters or whatever it is, and then maybe there's a one or two like real people in there. Well, what happens is they capture the YouTube guy that's been kind of filming and documenting everything and kind of saying these guys are a bunch of fakes, they're murderers and this and that. And then sister comes up and she goes, "So you've been filming us?" You hear the voice in the background, the little mascots capture him. He's like, "Please don't." And you look inside the mask that they're going to put on his head. It's got like all these like teeth inside of it. And it's like swirling around and they put it on him and it like eats his whole brain and everything else. And so he becomes one of these monsters, these mascots now going forward.
Had I realized this was the end of an arc, I probably would have just got this issue to finish the arc. But oh well.
I don't know if you didn't like the first 3, I don't know if this issue will be like this is the one that will convince you. I think it's very
But
much
if I was going
of
to
the
sell
other
it, at
ones.
least I'd have the whole arc.
There you go. That's a better answer.
That's right. All right. So let's talk about some X-Men. Kat doesn't read it.
No, I'm good.
This is issue 18. We have more than one Laura X-23 now. We had the little clone. We had Gabby, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now they rescued X-23 from the Children of the Vault. Do you remember that, Kat? The Children of the Vault?
I do remember that.
Okay.
I'm always amazed when you guys mention that it's still going on.
She got captured and she was in there. And so what they did is they resurrected Laura. And now you have the resurrected Laura coming around. They wound up getting the Laura from the vault. And now there's 2 of them. There's what you say, resurrected one and
clone of a clone of a clone.
Yeah, only one's really old and one's like
right.
Okay.
And so they don't look the story kind of crosses over with which was going on with Exterminators.
Yes. Yeah, there was a little Exterminator love there. They were actually toying around. Maybe we should call ourselves Exterminators, and they gave her like Christmas hat. Was it a Christmas hat?
Yeah,
some kind of hat back. And like, you forgot your hat, Laura, and stuff like that. So there was a little Exterminator love. That was a fun part.
And there was 2 part. There's a part in there where they're like, let's not cross each other's paths. Let's not interact with each other. And it's kind of like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that there's 2, So I think one should die. That's my personal.
But which one?
The older one. I think the older one needs to die.
Poor Sync's gonna lose his love all over.
That's what I want. I want him to stop. I don't like him. I don't like that character.
Make him suffer.
Yeah, just make him suffer.
That's hilarious. Maybe they just get rid of both of them and they just move off and do some other book that's not involved with the X. We don't have to read them, but they're okay.
What did you think of it?
I mean, it's the same thing. It's like there were fun parts in it, and like the Exterminator little plug. But I like the younger version of Laura better, and
because it's more like her.
Yeah, exactly. And Sync, he's just kind of generic. There's not a whole lot of personality to him, unfortunately.
Right.
And then, like you said, I don't need 2 Lauras running around. So
yeah,
I'd rather have the other one. So
yeah, because then we're going to get Wolverine verse or something like that.
It's old woman Wolverine now.
Yeah. She whiz. All right, let's move on. We talked about Dark Ride already. So let's move on to number 3. Kat, what was your number 3?
My number 3 was Flash, where we talked about it.
All right. What about you, Brian?
Mine was Nemesis Reloaded, issue 1. which I really liked. I thought it was fun. I mean, there wasn't like a whole lot of story there, but there was a whole lot of action, and you got enough sense of the who this character is, even if you hadn't read the original thing.
Oh yeah, I liked it too. I liked
Yeah.
it also. It's tough, man. I mean, there's situations that go in there that can be very sensitive towards people.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, he wants to take over Los Angeles, he wants to take out a mayor. He wants to kill all the cops by hiring people.
Yeah, he puts a bounty on all cops, like $10,000 for every cop he kill.
Right.
He tells us on the news broadcast. Yeah.
You know what you're going to see in the next issue, right?
Well, of course, a lot of people killing cops, so it's a very, very sensitive issue there.
Right. So it doesn't hold back. This book will get rough. It'll get this is nothing compared to what this book will become. But I like it. It's good though, you know.
It's just sadistic, brutal fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is totally, like you said last week. It is like a reverse Batman character. Like this guy trained with the top thieves and top assassins and all that stuff throughout his entire childhood from age 10 on. So it's basically Batman if he were evil.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Great stuff there. All right. So my number 3 is Flash. Yep, so is Flash. Nice. All right. So let's move on and talk about, we all read this title, Daredevil issue 7. We get what's going on with Elektra and Daredevil right now being part of the Fist, King Queen. They're trying to rehabilitate prisoners and broke them out, having them in this island. And I guess they're trying to help people. It's been an interesting story. They did, I guess, what's his name? Matt Murdock released one of them. And now there's all kinds of shit that hit the fan at the end of the last issue. I like it. I think it's good. I of course love the artwork. I think things are starting to build up, and now it's leading into the whole Punisher versus Daredevil story.
I thought this issue was gonna be them versing. So especially when you open up, it's like, because you open up with them explaining what's going on with Punisher, and I was like, cool, we're gonna get the verse, and then I'm like, oh, I guess not, and we're just getting this point A to point B story. So I was a little disappointed with that. It's fine. I'm excited for the actual build up. You know, I'm excited for the fight.
Yeah, it's fine. I thought it was a little bit slower than the build up to that collision between the two has been a little slow.
They're just rescuing people from a building mostly in this issue from being evicted.
Yeah, and there was like very little between Elektra and Daredevil, just like her being angry at him, and then very little with the other guy that he released. Just find out that they took his son and blame him Matt after everything he's done. So it was fine. I liked the book. I don't think it was bad by any stretch, but I'm just ready for that next. I'm ready for it to amp up.
So. And that's what Zdarsky does. He did it with the first run, the first volume. And I think he's doing it here too. And then there's going to be a point where it just blows your mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting the blow my mind part. I just think, the point A's to point B's could be a bit more interesting.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
Off topic real quick. I do want to answer this question. By the way, have you guys seen Last of Us on HBO? I actually did watch it, and Lisa was actually watching while we were doing the show here, and she liked it, and I really liked it. I thought it was super faithful to the video game. Yeah, the acting is fantastic. Pedro's really good in it. He's really good as that character. The little girl playing Ellie is really strong. Anna Torv is in it from Fringe, which I didn't even know, and I like her as well. So, yeah, if you like the video game, you're really going to like it. They pulled some scenes straight from it, some action scenes. And the first half hour, it was like an hour and 20 minutes, the first episode. The first half hour was like really emotional.
Oh, cool.
Once it got to the end.
I'm going to have to check it out. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see a video game adaptation actually go well, especially one that's so beloved. I feel like people would nitpick to forever. So it's interesting here, like everyone's loving it. And,
I know.
And it seems like they're faithful enough, but they're at least not doing copy and paste either.
Right.
Good.
Right. Exactly.
That's good. All right. So let's move on now to the Ones issue 3.
I liked issue 1. Didn't love issue 2, and I continue not to like issue 3, and I think it's continues to be very Bendis, where issue 1 had such a cool idea. It's like, cool, go with this. Let me learn about these characters. And now it's just like, no, we need to see the devil. We need to see this guy. We need to see that guy. And I'm like, I think I'm done. It's like, it's too much.
I mean, you said everything I was thinking. So.
Yeah, it's just, I always want to love his new books because I think Bendis is a good writer, and obviously we've seen years and years of some of his great writing, but I think he just doesn't have the reins anymore. I mean, I'm sure there's an editor on this book, but I just feel like he just does what he wants and that's it.
Yep. That's why I never even bothered. I never bothered.
Yeah.
Look, the first issue was good.
Yeah, the first issue was good, but I couldn't say it any better than you just said it, but that's exactly how I felt reading this. I was like, I just don't know if I can continue with this. So.
He always gets good artists too.
All right, let's move on to number 2. What do you got, Brent?
Mine is Specs, issue 3. Is it 3? Yeah, 3.
Yep.
Penultimate issue, right?
Penultimate. I'm so upset.
So sad. You know, I guess my shop did not receive their copy because I didn't get it last week. And then it wasn't until we got on the dock where it was on here. I'm like,
oh no.
I'm
that
like,
sucks.
Specs? I'm like, so I had to go find it online and read it online. So it was really good. I really enjoyed to find out where the glasses came from.
Yeah, it was creepy too, like what the fate is of everybody that wears them. So and then of course, you know, the stuff what I can't not remember these kids' names.
Oh, I know Teddy and Kenny.
Kenny. Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah.
Kenny, okay.
Which one is the one with in gel? Like, is that Teddy or Kenny? I don't remember who two.
They got two similar names.
Yeah, whichever one is in holding. I thought his
Ted. I think it is. That's Ted.
Okay, so his rebuttal to the cop was just like spot on what somebody would say in his situation, I think.
Yes. And
it was hard, you know, it was hard reading that, but at the same time, it's like, man, it's a sucky situation, but running from the cops probably doesn't make it any better.
No.
So yeah,
I love they're like trying to run from the cops, but then they're like, well, let's burn these suckers.
Yeah.
So, like, how are you going to get away from the cops and burn these glasses? Like, what's going to happen after?
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
You know?
I think the pacing for this book is so good, and that's there. It's why I kind of tend to like independent comics a little bit more, is just because it has the room to breathe, and then also it kind of has the room to do these character studies. Not that mainstream comics don't, but sometimes we got stories like Dark Web that needs to happen. But yeah, the character interactions are so good, and like you guys said, the reveal of where these glasses came from was so good. It's just a wonderful series, and then the art is not muddy, but it's just dark enough. I really love it, and I hope the issue 4 sticks the landing.
Yeah, me too.
The those glasses where it came from the girl that was explaining it was a dark story. She's like, yeah, I was always being bullied. I was picked on, and I wished to be, the prom queen and had the boyfriend, and then I wished to always be remembered, and then my boyfriend drowned me. I was like, oh man,
yeah,
I'm like,
she was remembered.
That is dark.
Yeah, it's the ultimate be careful what you wish for kind of story behind this. Yeah.
And I like how he goes to the place and he's just like, what was I hoping to find here?
Right.
So good. I can't wait for this next issue. I'm sad to see it go. Yeah. I am curious. Could they make a volume 2?
They could if the glasses passed on to somebody new. I think that's the way you do it. Yeah.
And then you
or
take
if it's sold adventure.
Well,
if it's sold well too. I would love to see a follow up to this, but it would have to be obviously same writer. I would love to see the same artist, and see what happens. But I don't know. We'll have to see how issue 4 really does. All right, so that was your number 2, Brant, right?
Yeah.
All right, Kat, what was yours?
Mine was Dark Ride. We already talked about it.
My number 2 was Ghost Rider issue 10. This is a really, really good book. And after 10 issues, we finally get the end of the first story arc. But the way this issue was told, it was like it caught you up on everything that's been going on up until this point, but it didn't bog you down with narration. It still told the current story at the same time while telling you everything that was going on with Johnny Blaze. I love the horrific tone of this book. He winds up having to fight his darker version of himself, which is Exhaust, and was it Blackheart as well. And we also get introduced to Danny Ketch at the very end of this book also. And it looks like he's like some kind of science experiment or something at the end of this. So we're going to get a new story arc at the next issue. But man, I was blown away by this. I have never really enjoyed Ghost Rider in the past, but the way this is written, I found it as an overall issue, as just a complete story done in, was this one like $4.99? Yeah, it was a little bit oversized, I think 30 pages, but it did a great job at telling the story and wrapping things up here. So recommend it if you are somewhat of a horror fan and a Ghost Rider fan. All right, so now that takes us to number 1. My number 1 is Specs. It wasn't my number 1 originally until after I read it today. So I was like, yep, right on top, baby.
I'm assuming that's yours too, Kat.
That is also mine.
Yeah. So Flash is mine. And it's just because it got me so excited for that event, you know?
Yeah.
So it just edged out.
That's understandable. When I first read Flash, and I read like 5 books, I think it was like Black Cloak, and I read like Lazarus Planet. I'm like, oh, Flash is definitely gonna be my number 1. And then like obviously I read Specs and then Dark Ride. But I was like, Flash was great. Honestly, like I liked my top 5 this week. I think there was some solid books out, which is interesting because me and Brant were talking pre-show, and Brant was like, I thought my, it was an okay week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like nothing like totally blew me away. I really enjoyed my top 5. I enjoyed all my books, but
I had a hard time deciding between top 5 because I really liked Batman and the Joker. There was some other books in there. Oh, I did read this. This was on my FOC.
Oh, really?
Oh, did you like it?
So I read it. It was good.
Was it really good?
Really good. Yeah.
Oh,
it was
surprising.
It was like a Silver Age story. And that's what it was. And all the character tones were back in that time frame. You had Janet was in this book. She is such a flirt, man. She was like hitting on Thor in the book. And then Ant-Man is like, Hank Pym is like, what are you doing hitting on him? And she's just like, well, he's just a good looking guy. And she's like, come on, let's forget about it. She's like, let's go hit the showers, lover, and wash off the jungle sweat. It was so funny.
That's weird.
It was so funny.
Considering their history, that's really weird.
It was hysterical. And the Avengers had to do battle against a Hulk that was created by Kang. This took place right after Avengers issue 11, the first volume, where Kang wants to take over the Earth. And he feels like, well, why not replicate the strongest one there is, which is Hulk? The Hulk is stupid in this issue. He's like Hulk Smash, Hulk Puny Man, Hulk Flag Man, and just stuff like that. You got Iron Man's armor being used in the book, and he's got roller skates on his feet. Oh my gosh. It was good, though. It was really well written. I think maybe it was too long. You didn't need to have such a drawn-out battle. But it was good, man. I liked it. I had a good time with it. So I am happy that I bought it. It wasn't a waste of time like I thought it was.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So, and Nemesis wasn't in my top 5. I think it was just right out there too. So Gunslinger I read. So there was a lot of good books that I liked. But there was just some that just, overtook the other ones.
I really enjoyed Wildcats and Moon Knight, and I'm still reading Dead Lucky, and I thought this was the best issue so far of that series.
Glad it got a bit better.
Yeah,
that's good. That's cool. Comic Toby, sits there and had a comment for me. I like last week's video when you went to the post office and the bank to use and used to show when I went to McDonald's and Starbucks. So every time when I do my haul videos, I kind of show like what do I do before I go before I go to the shop. And last week it was like a race against time where it was like I have 45 minutes. I got to run these errands before the comic book shop. So that's what I did. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. All right, Brant, let's move on and let's do the most anticipated now, and then we'll get into the news.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's start off with reading our top threes. I'll start this time. Number 3 is Wasp, number 1. Number 2, Nightwing, number 100, which interesting placement for that one for all of us. And The Flash 791 is my number 1. So, Kat.
All right. Mine is Wasp issue 1 for number 3, Nightwing issue 100 for number 2, and the number 1 is the last issue of the new champion, Shazam.
And Mike?
Well, Punisher issue 9 for me. Really enjoying that. We all have Nightwing at our number 2.
I don't know why it's number 2.
I know
it's not quite there, but
yeah, we'll talk
because
about it.
I have an idea, but and then mine is World's Finest issue 11.
Yeah. So let's talk about Wasp real quick, Kat. And for me, I'm curious. That's all there is to
it.
Like,
because there's only 2 Wasps, so it's like unlike Ant-Man where there's like 5 different characters. Like, oh, what are they gonna do?
Yeah. Exactly. So let's skip over Nightwing for a second. I'll Flash. I've already kind of covered it. Got really excited. My number 1, so I'm down for that. Punisher, Mike. Why are you looking forward to that one?
I've been enjoying that. We're getting up to a point now where things are really starting to heat up. You have Frank Castle's doing battle against Ares, and then you have if he wins, he's gonna have to go against something else. But the whole story has been great. The whole thing with him and his wife, how she doesn't, remember.
I want to know what's going on with her.
Yeah,
I need to know what's going on with her.
And after this, like, is she gonna live? Is she gonna die? How is she gonna live with himself if she dies again? There's so much stuff that is going on in this comic book. I love learning about the history of the character too, and it was one of my favorite comics of 2022. So I'm definitely looking forward to the first issue of the year for this.
I'm a little scared of what happens after this whole Daredevil thing. Like what happens with Punisher then. I'm a little nervous about it, but we'll see. And then Kat, New Champions of Shazam. I've been enjoying that series as well. So this is the last issue. That's sad.
Yeah, no, I'm upset it's the last issue. I think I think one of the Lazarus planets goes into I think it's gonna tie into it. Sorry if there's some background noise. But yeah, no, I really hearing the background noise. It's okay. But yeah, so I love this series. I think it's definitely one of my favorite DC books because the art is just so good, and I like Mary as a character. I'm just a little scared that this is again gonna be the last we see her, or that's kind of it. But it's been a good arc.
Yeah, I hope they do something. I mean, they are doing a new Shazam book coming up soon, right?
Yeah. And I think it's the Shazam family. And it's also Mark Waid, it's Dan Mora. So I mean, I hope that what happened here will piggyback off, what's going to happen in the future. But it's a great series.
Yep. And then World's Finest, we found out the identity of David at the end of the last issue, and
that's why it's not in my top 3.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah. So why did it make your number 1 then, Mike? Just because you love the book?
Nightwing?
No.
World's Finest.
Oh, just because it has literally been almost number 1 every single week on my most anticipated, and that book like delivers every single time. The artwork is gorgeous. I love learning about this Boy Thunder character. Now I know it was revealed like who he was at the end of the last issue, but I don't know the character. Do you know who that was?
You never read Kingdom Come?
No, I actually haven't.
Okay. Well, it's a Wade Wade staple because he was the big bad in Kingdom Come, and Wade wrote that. So it was Magog. He was also big in a run of Justice Society, I think, before 52.
He's definitely related more like Superman to usually like that side of things. But Yeah, I just didn't care about that. So I mean, obviously I still like this character, so I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. But that's why, yeah, it's why I didn't hit my most anticipated this time around. And also there's just other books I'm looking forward to. So oh man, Tevye has finally hit. I was wondering where he was. He's finally here.
Oh, hi, Tevye. Glad to
Hello,
have you.
Tevye.
Yeah, so that's why it's a book that's always delivered for me.
Yeah.
Originally, uh, since like I originally made my most anticipated, Flash was never even a thought, and then I'm just like I didn't even realize Flash was coming out this week again already. So
Yeah, I didn't either until I looked at the list, and just want to say sorry to Tevye. He just told us why he was late. So
I'm sorry to hear that too,
sorry,
Tevye, but
Tevye.
hope the show can help you keep your mind off things as well. I was gonna type anyways.
yeah, I lost mine last year, so I feel you, man. So let's talk about why Nightwing 100 is our number 2 and not our number 1. It's all our number 2s, which is so funny.
I don't know what
And this is not planned this way. It just
No. We honestly try to avoid when we have titles on our same ranking. But yeah, it's just a book that's so unpredictable. I think that's the reason why like I'm hyped because it's an issue 100 and maybe like big things can happen, but I'm also like wary because there's just times where I like the book, but there's a lot of times where I'm unsatisfied.
Yeah, and at the same time, I don't know what to expect from this. Like reading the description, it's like celebrate Nightwing in this issue, and he's a beloved hero. What better way than with different friends and artists? Which leads me to believe that it's gonna be one of those montage books where every few pages is a different artist. Maybe I don't know if it's gonna be a continuous story, if it's gonna be little vignettes. I don't know what to expect from it. So yeah, it's hard to get excited, like super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It was one of those books where I'm looking forward to it, but I'm afraid that nothing is going to be accomplished in it either.
Yeah.
And it just could be a celebration of the character, and it could be just an anthology book, and that's that, because this book has been known to take its break whenever it wants, and that's okay, So why not do an issue 100 where nothing happens, because they wrapped up the last story arc in issue 99. So really nothing is going on right now. So why not do whatever in issue 100 and then start things again in 101?
Yeah.
My 2 cents says a funny comment. Yeah, weird, because this channel got me into Nightwing. We love Nightwing in the first year. Is on our top 10 everything, top 5s, best of the year. But I think it's again, it kind of has like this Bendis issue, but the complete opposite, where it's like it just decompresses so much where it takes a little bit away from the book. I just want more to happen.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, it's great. I mean, I love the art. I love all the character interactions. I love the villain, right? I love the little dog. I love the relationship between Babs and Dick. But it's just there's not enough that happens. There's been so many issues of this already. I think it's been 78, right? Since the very first issue came out.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So.
It's been 2 years.
So, and we're on 100, and we just found out who Heartless was a couple issues ago, and the whole story arc was just Blockbuster running Bloodhaven, and he's finally been taken out. And that's all that really happened. When you look at it, that's not very much.
Yeah, it's just from issue to issue, it just hasn't been very cohesive, unfortunately. So
right, a lot of breaks in between, a lot of team ups and stuff like that. But again, when the story's on, it's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's all our most anticipated. So that's the things we're looking forward to. Yeah.
I know you have a Kickstarter. I have a Kickstarter too. So before we jump into news, do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yeah. So I've got my link ready to go this time. Mine is Legendary Lands Oz jigsaw puzzle, and we also have diamond painting kits, and we have a couple of our comics available that tie into our diamond painting kits. So Bloom Pretty issue 1 and The Last Ember Hunted issue 1 are both on there as well. If you're a comic, obviously you're comic people, so you can check those out via that campaign. But we are live until February 3rd. We already hit our funding goal, so go check it out, especially if you love puzzles. And we have our Wonderland and Neverland puzzles on there as well. So 3 different jigsaw puzzles you could potentially get on this campaign as well.
Cool. Well, I'll go real quick. I have enamel pins on Kickstarter right now. We have a really big Kickstarter coming up mid-February, so this is like kind of prep for that. But yeah, if you like queer pins, go check that out. We also have Slice of Life enamel pins. So if you enjoy our webtoon, we have enamel pins from there as well, and that runs until Thursday. So limited time to get this one's a really short campaign. But let's get into the news. So. First up, we're going to talk about some movie news because there's only one piece, and that is Matt Reeves says that Penguin's going to be a spinoff show to Batman 2. And really, this is just meaning like, oh, Penguin's still happening? Okay, so what is James Gunn's plan? I'm still a little cloudy on that, but I mean, it makes sense that Batman 2 is going to happen.
Yeah, and I actually liked the first one, so I thought it was a solid movie. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And so I didn't know about the Penguin show, actually. So this was news to me. So I thought it was kind of cool that they're tying a show to the movie verse as well.
Yeah,
I have nothing to say about this because I still haven't seen that Batman movie.
You should definitely probably see the Batman movie. It's not one of my favorites, but it's
just
fine.
Not, I guess, sitting down to watch it,
Yeah.
It's a long one.
Yeah, I heard it was. And I felt like there was a couple of times where I was like, all right, I'm going to watch Batman. And this is not going to be, I have to tell you this story. So I'll let the world know I'm a little transparent here. But when I was going for my colonoscopy the night before, I had to take the medicine that I had to take, and I had to take these pills, right? And so I was like, all right, well, while I'm not doing anything and I'm drinking these pills and all this water, let me watch Batman. So I turned on HBO Max and I got 10 minutes into it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to watch.
Yeah.
Watch Batman.
Not the best
night.
This
is not going to happen.
No.
But what I did do was I finally got around to finish watching the Suicide Squad. Remember, I told you I couldn't watch it. So I finally got around because you can't take that movie seriously. So I was able to get through that. But Batman, I was in no.
You just couldn't concentrate
condition.
on that. Yeah.
Now you can watch Peacemaker.
I still haven't watched that.
Peacemaker is better than Suicide Squad. But
there were some moments in Suicide Squad that made me laugh. I like the
very. It's not a bad movie.
Yeah, the beginning was hilarious when they all got killed.
Peacemaker is great.
It's like, oh, this is great. I'm like, this is awesome.
It's better than the original Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, it's a lot better than the original.
But yeah, so that's our media news for this week. So we are going to go into. There's a new Ironheart villain. And also Circuit Breaker we already talked about. So, well, if you have more to add for that, Mike, you can. But yeah, new Ironheart villain.
Ironheart villain was nothing special. There was one person that where did I see this at? Oh, I guess through the Twitter feed, they said, oh, this looks like a Spider-Man villain, and it was Clash. You guys remember Clash, that villain?
I do.
He was like white and purple, and he had all these circles around him.
He was from Peter's high school or something, and it was a Dan Slott creation.
Yes, it was
vaguely.
Yep. And it was like, that looks like that. But it's kind of funny because the character does look like some type of Iron Man thing that they would create. I don't like the mask or whatever, or the glasses, so I don't know. I don't know what to expect from this. But why is the character in there? Like, it's a new Ironheart villain, but does she have her own book? Or like, why is she having a new villain?
It's
not that
it's pre-comic book day.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It gave me Bullseye vibes when I looked at it. Okay.
I guess maybe because it's a TV show too, because she's gonna have her own show. So maybe they're like,
oh yeah,
yeah, maybe, yeah.
I forgot about that.
She was in Black Panther. Oh, we will see. So you said Bullseye vibes. I could see that.
Yeah, somebody actually in that thread posted a picture of Clash. It looks very similar.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's move on to Darth Vader is getting a new Black, White, and Red series. We've seen this with Elektra. We've seen it, I think, with Wolverine. So now Star Wars is getting one of these.
I just think it's interesting that they're doing this with the Star Wars book, and I mean, those books are typically brutal. I did read the Electra one, I think, but yeah, I mean, Darth Vader is a character that
Yeah,
it's an interesting route to go and
that
kind of tell
cover.
those side
Can you
stories.
bring up that cover, Brant?
Let's see, get to it.
The cover on it is absolutely phenomenal. So any Star Wars fan or is going to probably buy this book just for the cover in itself because it's absolutely gorgeous. It basically has Darth Vader holding his helmet, and you get to see Anakin's like old man face. Yeah, there you go. Like that's a great cover right there.
Yeah.
So I would buy that just for the cover in itself. I'll try out the first issue myself.
Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, well, let's move on to Cullen Bunn is creating a new imprint, and it's a horror imprint. But what's interesting is from a company that, definitely is a little bit more unknown. It's Outer Shadows. It's imprint and they're an entertainment company. What I also find interesting about this is that he is a creator that is kind of known for going to a lot of different places to write his stuff, and he writes a lot of indie books and a lot of horror books. So I'm curious to see what this imprint's going to be all about, and will this help the publisher to get a bigger name? I'm curious, and also why he chose this publisher. What this means for his other titles, I guess.
It's I mean, it's Outland Entertainment. I have heard of them, but I don't think I've read any of their stuff. I'm looking at their website. They got like a book called Deadlands and different things like that. So the kind of stories that he's telling in this new imprint seems to fit their overall vibe, the kind of books they put out. So that might be part of a factor. I don't know. It is an interesting choice. And it's also interesting that a lot of what he's going to be focused on is prose instead of comic work. So I don't know. I might try it out.
I mean, he's a horror guy. He always has.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of fitting for him,
Mhm.
So that's cool. Good for him.
So moving on to news that came out today, Maximum Carnage is going to be in Marvel 2099. It's going to be a miniseries. So it's pretty much another volume of Spider-Man 2099, which was written by Steve Orlando, who wrote the previous volume.
Yes. And I mean, I think this is cool. I mean, I might try it out. I think it's 5 issues. I like the covers. I think the covers look pretty neat on them. The one thing I did realize when I was reading this article is that it's the same artist that did the interior arts for Spider-Punk.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that.
I know, that's the one thing that gave me pause. I saw that, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But I'll try it out. I'll definitely try it out. I always like to try these Spider-Man 2099 books.
It's a different Carnage too.
Yeah. And him Miguel Doan with a version of Carnage, I think is cool and different. So
yeah, he's never dealt with a symbiote before, right?
Right. I don't think so.
I mean, they had what? They have Hulk 2099,
Yeah.
right? No Venom 2099.
Not that I recall, yeah.
Right? And you got Punisher 29. You got all those other characters that got introduced last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But I think it might be worth checking out. If it sucks, it sucks. Whatever.
Then it'll be just like most of the 2099.
Yeah.
No offense.
I didn't like last year's. I did not like last year's at all.
I didn't either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I really want to. Oh, Tevye said there is a Venom. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me in 2099, I'm good.
I always think it's interesting that you say 2099 and I'm always like 2099.
2099. Maybe because that's how much I don't like Spider-Man 2099 is I can't even say 2099. I'm sure they'll say 2099 in the movies.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I say it either.
If comics are still around in 2099, right? I wonder what's going to happen with this comic book. Like people are going to be like, "Look at this comic book. It's like Spider-Man 2099."
It's nothing like our world now.
Here we are.
Yeah.
There's been, look at like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, it looks
We're-
different, but we still watch
Where's
Back
our
to the Future.
hoverboards? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, oh, that's cool, but like, all right, I'm still gonna enjoy that movie.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the next thing, which is Groot gets his own comic book. Don't know why. You know, anytime Groot gets his own comic book, I don't think it's like, oh my god, everyone has to read the Groot comic.
You're not going to be reading the Groot comic because all he's going to say, like the last Groot comic, was "I am Groot" through the entire issue.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm good. I don't need that. I know they're trying to. I know Guardians has that Groot story arc, so maybe they're building from that. But no, I'm probably gonna skip this one.
I do think it's interesting that he's going back to his planet, and it's Dan Abnett, who was one of the co-writers of the original Annihilation event. So I might try an issue if it's a lighter week. We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see when the week comes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last news is that Green Arrow is not an ongoing book; it's a mini, and I'm like, what? I know. I'm like, what? You have Joshua
Are
Williamson.
you surprised?
I was a little surprised just because again it's Williamson. So I was like, this is your A-list creator, and you're making Green Arrow miniseries.
Hopefully it sells, and maybe they'll make it an ongoing. But that's a shame. You can't do shit like that, man. Like, God, just give them an ongoing for crying out loud, you know?
And then just cancel it if it's that bad, you know? Which I'm sure it won't be.
Maybe just Green Arrow doesn't sell well for them, so they're going into it with that mindset. I don't know. That just sucks. Yeah. Anyway, we got a super chat.
We do, and they're saying they read more X-Men. I appreciate the super chat. I'm reading Exterminators. I think that's more X-Men. That's enough X-Men.
I read, like, I don't read all the X books, but I read probably more than any of the three of us. So
what are you reading right now besides X-Men?
Immortal X-Men,
okay.
Exterminators. What else is out? Is that it?
There's more.
There's
Wolverine. There's X-Force. There's
I'm not reading
Red.
One of those. I am reading X-Men Red, and I'm reading Extreme X-Men so far. We'll see if I can continue with that, but yeah.
So, you are reading more than we are.
Yeah.
I'm only reading X-Men and Exterminators. That's it. But I will be reading Sins of Sinister comes out next week. I'll be reading that.
I'll be reading that.
I don't think, maybe I have it on my pull list. It depends on the week. I don't remember. I don't think I do, though.
There's a nice Emma Frost cover coming out with it next week.
Emma's going to be in,
I got that cover.
Yeah.
Emma's
it's gorgeous.
What book is she in right now?
The
Captain America.
Yeah.
I could just read her there. I'm good. Mr. Negative says, I really hope that Green Arrow sells well enough to be extended past that. Going to stop picking up Batman books and get that. Yeah, no, I hope it gets picked up too. It looks like a really cool arc. It looks like it's going to be about the family. And again, we know Williamson knows how to write Green Arrow. He kind of sets it up in Dark Crisis. So I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a good book. Pre-order it. That's how, get the FOC, make sure it's on your pull list.
I think the last time we had a Green Arrow book was when Jeff Lemire's run ended, right?
The last time we had it was the Aquaman miniseries that he tied into. That was the last Green Arrow book.
Tied in with Aquaman.
Yeah. So they had like a team up book.
Is that doing like during Future State?
No, I think it was like right before Dark Crisis.
Oh.
Really?
So yeah. We read the first issue, all of us. I actually did an article about Green Arrow today. So that's the only reason I remember.
But it was just a mini, right?
It was just a mini. No, I believe they had 2 volumes of it.
2 volumes.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was a team up
might have
book.
been it was a team up book.
Yes.
Okay.
You need just a Green Arrow. Green Arrow book. That's all you need.
Was that the Void Song one, or was that the other Aquaman miniseries? I don't remember.
It was.
They had a couple.
I think we both read it. Where
at
least 2 of us read it. Where he was wearing the Aquaman suit in the first issue, and we saw them like switch places.
Okay, I did not read that. That wasn't me.
Yeah, that was the issue. I only read the first issue. It was a little while ago, but that is the last Green Arrow.
I don't remember that. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, so
I believe
we'll see,
you, but I don't remember.
We'll see if the miniseries does well. Let me see what was called Green Arrow, Aquaman, and when it came out, Green Arrow, Aquaman, issue 1, Deep Target.
Deep Target.
And it came out October 26, 2021. So about last year.
Yeah, a little over a year ago.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's celebrating both their 80th anniversary as well.
That's why. That's the only reason why it came out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they're like, let's get this miniseries. But anyways, that's the news for this week. So we are, I think, wrapping the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Kat won't be here next week.
I won't
So
be
we're
next
just
week.
letting you guys know. So don't cut our viewers down by half because Kat's not here. Brant and I will still be here, hopefully.
And there's good comics, I'm sure, to talk about. So, and I'll be back the week after. It's just 1 week.
Next
I'll
week
be
we'll
gone.
probably have like 5 viewers. It'll be like, we want Kat. So, but we'll be here holding down the fort. And of course, guys, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show. It's always a blast bringing it to you. And of course, guys, if you like this show, make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0 and the Comic Book Weekly YouTube channel as well, where you can watch every single episode back to back. And then, of course, guys, make sure you follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, of course, YouTube, and not TikTok because we don't do dancing over there. Make sure you hit the bell. Not yet. Yeah, we can get desperate. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss when this show actually does go live. And because that's very important. We get people that tell us that all the time, that we miss stuff. And then, of course, give this video a thumbs up because it does definitely help the algorithm and lets other people know that this video exists, because Lord knows we've been trying, because we've been doing this show for like 10 plus years.
Oh, yeah.
You guys didn't really know that, right? It's been different iterations of the same show, but a lot less people now. So
I think Tevi and Serenity knew that. I think
that's true.
OGs, but
yeah, that's absolutely true. So thank you all. Have a great night. Happy New Comic Book Day. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everybody.